Live from beautiful Hoboken, New Jersey. It is I, Schmuel Buckman, joined tonight by our good friend, Lil Lemmi, and Leo Helmer. Leo is our paralegal guy who provides information on legal happenings, and lately he's been covering Steeltoe. So we are up for that. And let me just go ahead and bring in Lemmy. Hey, Lem, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? How's everybody in the chat?
I don't know. There's 18 chats I haven't gotten to 'em. We've got Dirty Deeds is here, who would not vote for Joey to be meter maid. Um,
Lovely Joey Meter Maid.
oh man, lovely Joey meter maid. Stealth Chaos, of course, is going to come in and tell us how we should do it. Let's see. If I ever come up with an opinion about anything Steel Toe does, I may consider it. This might not be the room for you then tonight. There, Stealthy. Um, did you get to see the Joey stuff last night or no?
Oh no, I don't. I really. Oh, you're gonna be so disappointed in me tonight.
Not at all. Not at all. I know you're like kind of friendly, if that's the right word, with Joey, right? Like you guys
I
met
do like
down in
Joey.
at
And not only do I like Joey, I just really haven't even been paying that much attention to that, to any of anything really.
I,
Oh,
yeah,
I can hear you.
one
Oh shit,
second.
we got
Leo,
ghosts.
we haven't let you in yet. Let's let Leo join us.
I was just going to comment on the old audio situation.
And we've got the wonderful Leo with us.
Hello,
And
folks.
hey guys, um you might remember Leo from such things as um Uh, Leo's been around for a bit. He is our resident uh, legal scholar who comes all the way to us from the North Pole. So,
Yeah, I feel sort of uncomfortable with you saying. I mean, I guess I have worked in that world for a long time, but I actually have deeply ambivalent feelings about the law, and I think a lot of it's silly, as we talked about a little bit last time. But anyway, it's nice to be here. It's nice to make your acquaintance, Lemmy.
oh,
Yours
yeah.
too. Like he was saying, such things as pretty antisocial podcast.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Those beautiful
Yes.
ladies.
yeah, those ladies are really sharp, and
Oh, sharp as tacks and hilarious.
I
Love
really
those
enjoy
girls.
them. Sorry,
They
I'm digging around
they
my
they
settings.
are the best, and it's funny because I get to. That's one of the great things about doing this is the meeting of getting to meet people and getting to talk to them. And we actually uh, had a little DM conversation back and forth today because I was asking them if they had any questions that we might want to have Leo answer. And
I'm trying to fit myself into frame here.
not really. Yeah, I know
There
Yeah,
we
it's
this
go.
is the worst, dude.
No, this is great. I just
I
wanted to kind of.
fucking hate it. It's not great. Stop lying to the man. This is terrible. Can you get us into fucking
I feel like I'm on Piers
BYB mode?
Morgan, and I'm going
I
to be in
Yeah,
the
dude. I do
thumbnail,
not
like
like
yelling at
this.
somebody. Yeah.
I want
um
you to be able to see my squishmallows, dude.
Well, I'm
BY.
sorry I interrupted your point, Shmuel. You were saying something about a conversation you had with
No, no,
the.
no. I was just talking to the young ladies from Pretty Antisocial today, asking them if they had any questions.
Right.
So as I try to figure out, um,
Yeah, I was going to put out a video earlier today, but I was sort of having like a weird game theory debate with myself about what to do because I knew essentially like 99% it was going to get continued. So it didn't make much sense to me to like release it. But I don't know. I'm sort of talking to myself about like what I should do. Should I release it like tomorrow? Or like I guess it's going to be like a few weeks since the thing, but maybe we can talk that out, tease that out as we enter into this episode because I
I
did a lot of yeah.
yeah, no, I actually it's funny. I talked to uh, an Ohio attorney this weekend about the continuance and whatnot, and he was like, "This is the game,
Yeah.
and um, this is the way it's played, and because there's no real immediate threat to anyone, they're just going to continue it. And then they tend to always. I may not have it exactly right, but I think what he said is because it's intended to protect women
Yeah.
mostly and children, they tended to defer to the person that's the complainant as opposed to the respondents. So,
Yes, that's accurate for sure. Um, but there's a lot of I wasn't really sure that there'd be many interesting much interesting like opinions out there, case law about it, and there was some interesting stuff. So yeah, I sort of ended up going down a rabbit hole for a bit this week.
all right. So, just to recap for everyone that doesn't know, and this is
Sure.
not probably the only thing we'll talk about tonight because I know it's rare to get Lemmy, and I know that she has a lot of things that she would prefer to talk about besides
Sure.
Steel
Yeah.
Toe.
No. Yeah, that'd be fine.
And
I'm
your
kind of sick of it myself anyway. So
right, and Leo is way into cults and stuff, so I think that's something that um, Lemmy
I'm
might be.
actually gonna go. I'm going over the Twin Flames cult tomorrow on my stream tomorrow.
oh
Do you know
shit.
anything about them? I don't know
I,
anything. I'm going fresh eyes.
All
yeah,
right,
no, I've just heard a little bit about it, so maybe I'll have to catch that because yeah, I am obsessed with Colts. So
cool.
Same,
And
dude.
just to let everybody know, if you're watching us on X and or Twitter, no matter what you call it, we're going to be going off there in about 5 minutes.
hmm,
So yeah, and we'll just be strictly on YouTube. That's mostly for me because I can't stand the
yeah,
number count. It makes me crazy.
there's already
And
like
oh,
so many different things to look at, like when you're in the wormhole of this, that like if you have multiple platforms, you feel like you're like in the matrix. You know?
yeah, and I also don't. I feel like it's lying to me, and so I want to kind of. I'd like to keep track of the real numbers, and sometimes we can tell by those whether we're doing whether we're hitting a bad subject or not. So there we go.
Hmm.
Lem, what's a GOT's ref?
It's a Game of Thrones reference, and yes, it is.
You had a good one today with your um, loose on
Oh
the
yeah,
archers.
loose.
I
Yep.
was like, let me. I knew. It's like as soon as I saw that, I was laughing because I said somebody like you would pick that up almost right away. Um, hey, Leo, how about the cult of Affy? All right. So here's where we're going, guys. Is that Dave Sarah is supposed to be in the back room taking care of the chats, and I'll handle the super tips at supertip.gg/Buckman, and we'll hopefully get a few of those tonight. Um, but I don't know if Dave. I can't tell if Dave is in here or not, and so I'll try to keep up with him as best as I can. But usually that's not something I can do because we get caught up in the
What are you talking
conversation.
about? The chats?
The, ch-
Shit,
the
boy, that's
chat.
my specialty. That's chat. I'm only staying out of the chat because I thought it would be fucking rude. Let me in
Hmm.
there.
Oh, he doesn't chat back, but he picks out what's interesting and puts it on screen. So,
He's probably doing cocaine in the back.
Code
Dave,
fucking Kane.
I would be
That Dave.
shocked. I would be shocked if that were happening.
Hmm.
He came in Saturday night. I had zero internet
Hmm.
because Verizon upgraded me the day before, which meant I didn't have any. And Dave came in to help, and man, he was fired out of a cannon on Saturday night. Um,
Shocking.
it was, yeah, I know. I was shocked as well. All right, so Leo, you can give us a better update, but where we stand right now is Aaron is due October 2nd, I think,
For the criminal case, yeah.
for the criminal case
There's a lot of
for
moving parts here. Yeah.
and yeah, I just want to give a brief like where we're at. So
Sure.
Aaron is scheduled for the criminal case in October. Several weeks ago, he filed restraining orders against Nick and Patrick Melton. You'll talk about how those were granted, and they're entitled to a hearing on these orders, but apparently he's had trouble finding an attorney. So he keeps finding one late on Friday nights, and the So the case keeps getting postponed, and now we're what? We were supposed to have something on Wednesday, and now we're out until the 29th of
Like, yeah,
August.
of this month. Yeah, it's pretty crazy because like I decided to do my video actually like doing a short recap of what's happened over this span of time because it's hard to understand like what is going on here with these uh, harassment restraining orders without understanding the context and like who Aaron is. But anyway, like Aaron and Nick have been in a blood feud for just over a year, and Aaron was charged with sending lewd pictures of Nick's wife to Gino on the air, which became an incident and was reported on like local news and stuff like that. And they've been having like a back and forth ever since. And Aaron was like the first time I did a video about this was right before he was going to his first sentencing hearing, which was like at the end of July. Or no, wait, at the end of June. Excuse me. Man, I'm in a wormhole with this case. And basically what I said was like, we'd heard that he'd got a couple of new violating conditions of release for breaking the no contact order and like harassing Kayla through means that don't really matter. And what ended up happening is my prediction was correct. The judge rejected the plea, set it on for October, and like the day after that, Aaron went and got harassment restraining orders. Essentially, like one could look at it as like in retaliation for him getting in trouble for a restraining order. And like what's really funny about it is there's like this speech that he gave like the morning of his sentencing hearing where he said he had an epiphany when he was camping with his family. He's going to put the past behind him, but of course that didn't happen. So here we are. And once again, like the hearings on these restraining orders where Aaron says that he's afraid of his life and his daughter's afraid of her life from Nick Arcata and Patrick Melton, two guys that make fun of him on the internet, has been pushed twice. And the last time it was pushed, the lawyer that he hired quit for personal reasons mysteriously like 2 days before. So there's just so much like weirdness, and it's just a lot of tension building where something very strange is going to happen. So hope.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's touching on the epiphany, right? I mean, we all made the assumption that the epiphany was he was going to do what he needed to do and proceed that way. But really, that epiphany seems to have been, I'm going to fight back and fuck with people. And that's it, and that's where we are now. Um, but let's not forget that when he did have his epiphany, that was also when he said this was no big deal,
Yep.
right? That he was
Yeah.
just going to, you know, uh, it's very hard to be put in a jail in Minnesota. He
Yeah.
went, he he really did go off on all this stuff. So my experience is the one thing courts want is respect, and the one thing he was not showing was respect. So he really screwed himself there. I would think.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that you can do that will like end up getting you in Dutch with the courts like quicker than anything is like not listening to them, not obeying their orders, and that's definitely true in this case. But the thing about the epiphany is, I think it's an interesting example of like why it's difficult to interpret what a liar says, right? Because you don't really know where to shift. Like, what was he having the epiphany about? And what's interesting is I made like a draft of a video that I ended up not releasing, where I went back and looked at like other epiphanies he had by like searching through the transcripts of his shows, and there's like at least a dozen similar incidents where he's had like epiphanies when something has gone wrong and he's got consequences, and he all of a sudden like decides to so it's like it's just so funny because he has these patterns that are like Mersh said, he's like the first midwit sociopath. Like he just, I don't know, he's not very sophisticated, and they're pretty easy to see if you're paying attention.
Yeah, but he does think he's the smartest guy in the room. And
Right? Yeah. That's what I think is interesting about him is I can't really understand him. That's sort of always why I get interested in stuff like the reason I got interested in the Nixium cult, Keith Raniere and all the heiresses up in upstate New York, was because like I couldn't understand how he could convince him to give him like hundreds of millions of dollars and to sleep with him. So that's the it's just always a gnawing curiosity. Nice to see you, Dave.
Yeah. So Dave is gonna hide in the back, um,
I think
and
Lemmy had a point.
he'll
Sorry.
let me know. Go ahead, let me. Hey, Leo, I do need you to do me a favor.
I
Or
don't.
Dave can try to fix the camera, but you're like basically off screen, so you need to move to your left a little bit.
Oh
Go
shit! I'm
ahead, let me.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I don't have a point. I was waving at Dave.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought you had a point, but you always
Hold on,
have a
props.
point.
Hold on. Props says, Lemmy, you look like my mom when I was a kid. She pulled knives on several of her boyfriends.
Yeah.
Oh
Cool.
man, that's
I,
gnarly.
I don't know, Lemmy. You look ladylike to me. I don't know. I know you go to avoid it, but
How dare
I
you?
I can see why the other half is
You
so
look like
into
you're in
it.
your spirit cave, like in Fight Club, or whatever that thing was called.
Schmuel?
Reverie. No, you, because you have like
You
this like aura about you.
Oh, it's my astronaut projector over here.
It's very cool.
Thank
That
you.
is very cool.
Thank you so
So,
much.
Fuck.
this is I knew that like I said this was going to come up
Is this a
for
meme
Smack.
or am I?
Is
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 there
that
actually
Leo
confusion?
is that Leo Gunn? Uh it, remind me to tell you after, but
You said that
the
last time.
the well, cuz I don't want to dox
Yeah.
Leo,
Okay.
but
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
um there's there's reasons. Everything has a reason and a context. So that we're there. So all right, so where do you see us now? Like, where do you see this going? Um, are you finding it interesting, or is it had just reached the point where it's just so ridiculous that you're
Oh,
bored
Leo Gunn.
and you wish this would all go away?
Are you asking me or the
I'm
panel
at
or?
both of you, but you particularly.
Yeah. I mean, I. It's funny because I've been having those sort of thoughts, like of it, sort of ambivalence growing, where Aaron's like, I don't know, not that entertaining to me anymore. And it's been a slog this last couple of weeks, like looking into all this stuff. And the thing that I know, like in my bones from working in the court system for so long, is that nothing ever really happens. Like it just gets pushed, or if somebody like ultimately, it'd be interesting to see if he got charged for falsifying an HRO application because it's very rare that it happens. And based on like what happened, there's so much context that we're leaving out. So like I'm sorry to people that aren't like super familiar with the Steeltoe thing. I'm like not really that much either. But over this last week, he had one of his infamous anniversary shows, and his guests Gino and Kiki went up on stage and like basically trampled all over the court's order and crapped all over the alleged victim in the unsolicited image case. And so yeah, it's just like it just keeps getting weirder and weirder, but I feel like we're heading for like a cliff. And I don't really want to watch that much anymore because it feels sickening. So that's an interesting and insightful question, Shmuel. I think, yeah.
I and I got you, and we don't have to say alleged anymore, right? He did plead guilty.
Yeah, but he hasn't, like, the plea hasn't been formally accepted. So, technically I don't know. I've been trained.
No, I got you. But the burden is not on us to say that, you're going to do what you're going to do, but
He's still not technically guilty because his plea was rejected. He still has a sentencing hearing. And so, if something were to happen, like if he were to die right now, that wouldn't be an official charge because he hadn't gone through the anyway. Not to get into such inanities, but no, he's not formally guilty yet. But I mean,
okay.
like everything but the crying at this point.
Well, since defamation is such a huge issue in the Dabbleverse, and everybody's going to sue everybody else for it, I want to get it right.
Yeah, I also just try to like model somewhat like reasonable speech with regard to these things. I don't want to make claims that I can't support.
And let me go like, in your experience, right? How this whole thing, the genesis of this whole thing, the original meeting, um, April being whatever, just to go to the genesis of them meeting and a married couple and whatnot. Um, I don't see myself ever getting in this situation. Um, what do you? like, what do you think? I mean, how does this how I don't know how to explain it. How does it get started? And what's your opinion? Like, what's your opinion of the relationship itself, where it went, and where we are today?
This would be something I think that would be interesting to hear someone from the fairer sex's opinion on, because the way that Aaron describes it is like it was actually his idea to start the polycule. But like if you listen to his story, it really kind of sounds like he was talked into thinking it was his idea. I'm not really like so versed in that lore other than just like the basics, and so I mean, I think the inevitable conclusion for me is that he wanted to leech onto Nick Arcade's clout. At that time, Nick Arcade was like a huge law tuber that was getting like 20K viewers a stream. So that seems like the obvious motivation.
Let's hear a female perspective on this.
What are you specifically asking?
Just like based on how familiar are you with the Ricada lore?
None at all.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, not of at this point. Um,
Through
not a whole
osmosis.
hell. I know he touched the Sonichu medallion, and that's
Yeah.
never a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. You know what? That's really the whole thing here is that we can just sort of ignore all of this because the dimensional merge is going to happen. And he did put on the Sonichu Challenge, which also, did you like Mudahar? Have you, this is internet dumb stuff, but he's like another comment guy that has like 3 million subs whose just career just imploded over this last week. And he also put on the Sonichu medallion.
Oh, I
So,
mean, I know enough to not do that.
yeah. Now
Right.
we're talking about Chris Chan. So we're so deep in the internet weeds that, yeah.
6 degrees of separation from Chris Chan.
Yeah. So let me. I guess here's the question. You met April, right? She
Oh,
was
yeah.
around when you went to
Oh
the
yeah,
stream? All
yeah.
right. So having met April, having met Aaron, could you have pictured in your mind that any of this could have happened?
Oh yeah, yeah. They're both idiots.
Hmm.
And April was very, very young and very impressionable. So when I just noticed that there were small changes in them both. Just the inflection of their voices, that they were always fucking dog tired in the morning, that they always had shit to do in the morning, that April was always coming in the morning. You know, it's just, I remember one time watching the show and she only had makeup on one eye, heavy makeup on one eye. And I'm like,
Oh, weird.
what the? No, it's not weird if you're doing fucking cocaine all night.
Yeah. So were you actually in Minnesota, or were you just like
Yeah,
watching
I went
Melton
to
stream?
No, I went to Minnesota 2 years ago for a Steeltoe anniversary show. It was a fucking blast.
Oh, were you still involved as a moderator at that point on
Mhm.
Steel Toe's channel? Okay, see, yeah, okay. So you know this lore better than I do. I don't know why you're being so
Yeah, I mean,
recalcitrant.
I don't know Ricada lore now.
Okay, sure.
Steeltoe
Okay, yeah,
lore, absolutely, but I have absolutely kind of different kind of opinions than everybody else. I'm not hateful, and I'm not looking
sure.
to end anybody or
Yeah,
anything like
I feel
that.
the
And
same way. Yeah,
Right.
I just
And
like making jokes and laughing at jokes and shit.
I think I
I'm not
just
asking you to be hateful or to end anyone. I'm just saying my question really is like, all right, so you said they're dumb and you said April is impressionable, and the story, the lore is that Aaron talked her into this. And which reminds me of the Howard Stern, I think it was Miss America, or no, was it?
Yeah.
It was anyway.
Okay.
The
No.
person got talked into a threesome, and then the guy was crying 6 months later.
No, oh yeah, that often happens. First of all, Aaron's a fucking mongoloid of a human being. Like he's the
yeah.
Michelin man IRL. However, I'm sure Aaron talked to April about it, and April was probably like, you know what? That sounds like a really fucking fun idea because I'm 29 and aging, and I've had no fun, and I want to do some drugs and fuck.
Hmm. Have you talked a lot about like how you sort of got involved in the whole Steel Toe world, being a moderator a lot?
I was
Excuse me.
actually it's actually kind of a funny story.
I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
I started out watching Bubba the Love Sponge and then his co-host of 20 Years Left, Manson, and I started watching Clusterfuck, which was his show. And
I remember when Manson went on WATP. That was an interesting show.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have to watch that. Except Carl's insufferable.
I
Anywho,
agree. We're on
if
the
you
same
could
page,
pixelate
Lemmy.
Carl out, can we pixelate him out for that? Maybe
Do
we can
do
AI.
like that Nope episodes, but like remove Carl digitally.
Yeah. You
So
wouldn't
the
have to
episodes would
remove the
be
laugh track because there
yeah,
is none.
and the
Just
episodes
kidding.
would be like 2 minutes long since he filibusters. So,
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I watched him, and he, I guess Bubba had him on as a phone call or whatever, and he had like some upset with radio, blah 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 blah, and it was kind of a local. It was a Twitch thing. I was already on Twitch watching Clusterfuck and Bubba.
oh, Bubba had Aaron
So
on.
Aaron called into Bubba because he was Aaron or Bubba was going over a radio news, and Aaron was in radio news.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so Aaron, I think, called in. Somebody told him that Bubba the Love Sponge was talking about him, so Aaron called Bubba.
Wow.
So
And so that's how you first heard of Aaron.
that's how I first heard of Aaron. And some people in some of the Twitch channels that I was around in were, watched Steeltoe on Twitch. So I went in there. I farted around a little bit and made a few friends, And one night they were just, and I would hassle Aaron. It was fun. I would call him bitch tits and make the chat laugh, and I would cross talk my ass off, just distract chat because that's just what I do. That's my thing. But he was selling moderator badges for fucking 5 gifted subs.
What?
Yep, he was
This is like
selling
DSP
moderator.
stuff.
Just listen, selling moderator badges for 5 gifted subs. And somebody said, "Make Lemmy a moderator," and I said, "I ain't giving this motherfucker any money." And like 7, 8 people in the chat were like, "Fucking moderate Lemmy," and he was like, "Fucking fine, I'll moderate this bitch." So, and that's how I became moderator of Steeltoe.
Hmm. What was that like? Like seeing the inside. Was it different than you might have expected, or?
Not really, not really. It was just a sword next to my name.
Hmm.
I don't ban people for saying dumb shit. I ban people for doxing. If you put an
Okay, so
address or a phone number in, or like a real name or some shit in the chat, and you're just being a fucking malicious dickhead, I'm gonna ban you.
Uh,
at that,
so, but
I'm sorry. Go
let me.
ahead.
I'm sorry. Just now, what this goes back to when he was on Twitch, or is this YouTube?
This is Twitch. I was a moderator for him on Twitch.
Wow. That,
And how people have said that he was making like $20,000 a month on Twitch at his height. What was your impression of how successful it was? Like, what was the viewership like that you can remember?
The viewership was fucking outstanding. He had great viewership, upwards of like 1,000, 1,200, and it was a lot of fun. And when he would pander for money, he would do things for money. Like he once blew his voice out doing like singing old time rock and roll as Gilbert Gottfried. You know what I mean? He would just do silly, funny and it like he was truly like just a silly fucking radio nerd, and it was a lot of fun at the
Hmm.
time. I do not regret being a moderator for Steel Toe or watching or being a fan or anything like that, because when it was good, it was so much fucking fun, and he was hilarious. So,
and was April in the picture at that time, or?
oh, absolutely. April was on like once a week, and she was like a ray of fucking sunshine, man. He had Corey as a co-host, Johnny, Oz, and oh my, I'm sure I'm forgetting one, but
That's
Johnny.
so
Oh my
interesting.
god, I'm so fucking sorry, Johnny. I love you so much. But he had a plethora of co-hosts, and it was a variety every week.
So, what do you think changed? Like, what was it? Just the relationship went sour, or what's your impression of like why
I
he?
don't know. He got kicked off of Twitch for saying some dumb shit, as you do. I just got off a 7-day suspension, so I can't really say a whole hell of a lot. But you say some dumb shit, I'm not gonna defend what he said because it was whatever. I'm not gonna defend anything Aaron says. Well, that's not actually entirely accurate. Some shit I will. Fucking fight with me about it. I'll defend anybody. But
Was it was his getting banned from Twitch similar to what had gotten him tossed off the radio,
I
or?
don't know. I wasn't a fan during the radio days.
Well, he
Well, sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no,
Oh
Leo,
no,
you go.
he fucked with a trans person, and the trans person got their community to mass
Yeah.
report him.
And
Okay.
like one thing for people that don't know Twitch, and I haven't used it a ton, but its reputation is very progressive, and the radio stuff is like when he another radio host in Des Moines got a job that he wanted, and he had his fans like harass her Jocktober style, and he got fired from the St. Cloud radio station because of that. And then yeah,
At least Opie and Anthony used to act like they wanted you to stop,
yeah,
and he just kept piling on, and he really went after her. I had read some of the stuff that he'd said, and it was pretty brutal.
yeah,
Um,
Well,
and
him getting kicked off of Twitch, I'm gonna be as unbiased as I possibly can. Not being a fan, and well, I can't even say I'm not a fan anymore because I still pop it on in the mornings and listen like unironically. You know what I
hmm,
mean? So
yeah.
judge me all you fucking want, panhandler. Hate me
No,
for it.
no,
I don't
no,
remember
go.
where I was going. I'm fucking high on edibles.
Oh,
oh
okay,
wow,
that's
that's fun.
cool. It's
Hence,
we'll get back
hence
to
the
that later, but
background.
that's like doing a stream with Ray, where he's all like shot out of a cannon and he does an edible, and then 5 minutes later he can't remember what he said 2 seconds before, and he keeps putting the same chats up over and over again.
Oh
Um,
no! How many milligrams? Let me ask you that.
I have
For
no idea.
for Ray, I bet it was like 25 milligrams. I'm sitting on 450 right now. Like I
Jesus
ate him
Christ, that's
like an
like
hour
Joey
ago.
Diaz, Stars of Death level.
I
You
know
guys ever
bit.
watch The Church of What's Happening Now? That podcast
Hmm.
with Joey
I
Diaz.
I know.
Sorry.
I just know Joey Diaz as a comic. I don't know that I've
Yep.
really watched him. And sort of another self destruction kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah. He was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. He and like his like totally weed naive like nebbish co-host producer guy were like taking these things called Stars of Death that had like 500 milligrams each, and like they were like disassociating. They were so high. In fact, do you guys know the comedian Owen Benjamin?
Hmm.
Speaking
Yes.
of cults, he has like his own minor cult. There's a lot of people that speculate that his mental break happened when he went on the Church of What's Happening Now and ate a Star of Death as a non-weed smoker. And marijuana has those sorts of known effects. Sometimes it can exacerbate and bring out symptoms of schizophrenia in people like in their 20s. So anyway,
It, all right. So you said you enjoyed the show. You enjoyed April, right? So then we get into the transition where he gets banned from Twitch, and according to Moody, and I've never known Moody to be wrong. He was estimating that Aaron was making 20K a month on Twitch.
that's
A
crazy.
lot, it's a lot of
I'd
money
agree
to
with that.
lose.
Yeah, it's a lot of money to lose, and I'm sure it was a fucking blow when he lost his Twitch channel.
So,
Yeah, and I talked to Moody about that too, and he said that was like that was before like tips and bits and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, it was a lot of money.
right? So you lose that. He's got April. Do you know if he and April were married at that point or still engaged?
I have I don't remember, to be honest. I never really like I never got that invested in it. I was more invested if you want the honest to God truth, I was more invested in the chat. I was more invested
Yeah.
in the people who were in the chat, you know? Like I said, like I'm what when I go into a chat room, I find it incredibly hard to focus on the broadcaster and I just start fucking around with people in chat. I got in trouble for that shit at school, dude. So it's just naturally who I am.
Hmm.
You're the one that always has side conversations. Is that
Yep.
the
Yep. And they'd always be super fucking interesting. So I'd have their attention.
yeah. Well,
Why do you think Aaron was so big on no crosstalk? Why do you think he made that fucking rule?
was
I
he
don't know
he
what
was
you're.
so he would get upset at the chat going off the rails kind of thing?
Oh
Like,
no, he wouldn't really get upset. He would just be like, "Guys, we're trying to stay on." He'd spurg out a little bit. He would, yeah, but he wouldn't. It wouldn't be like an irate thing.
I'm
It's
just trying to
we do it on purpose just to fucking watch
I
us.
got I picture you as being that person.
Oh,
Um,
we were all that person. Everybody in the chat was that person, man. That's why
Hmm.
I hate hearing people talk shit about Steeltoe chat because a lot of them used to be there to bust on his fat tits. Don't clip that. Please, nobody clip that. I need to learn my lesson someday.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or like make fun of his receding hairline. You guys, like all the trolls and shit, or all the a logins and stuff. All they're doing is what chat used to do to him, but you guys are just meaner about it.
Yeah, and so I asked her at April because I'm just trying to put a timeline on this thing. Because my impression was this, is that she met this radio guy who thought he was going to Mars.
Mhm.
That's what attracted her. She was there. She was
As
going to
it
be part.
was.
She
Yeah.
was going to be part of all this, and then Twitch gets taken away. But she seemed malleable. Like I think was really convinced that they were going to build an empire, and it didn't
Yeah.
happen.
No, I don't know. I think she had to get to know Aaron through being his co-host. I don't think they really knew each other very well when they first got together. And she was very pretty, and arm candy, and radio host wife material, I guess, or whatever. She did what she was fucking told. You know what I mean? So that's a pretty great quality to have in a wife if you're a fucking demanding narcissist.
Yeah, I have no idea what that's like. Um,
I
Mine
think the
tells
other thing
me,
that's worth mentioning is that, like, they actually first met when Aaron went to her high school as like a, I don't know, some sort of thing for the station, and she was like 17 and he was like in his 20s. I think that's what I've heard. I don't.
I have. I don't know. Like I said, I started rolling around when
Yeah,
like about a month after he called into Bubba the Love Sponges show.
should find that call.
it's yeah, it's interesting. I just get my thing is I just get this impression you impressionable young girl, right, hooks up with the bigger guy, and he's gonna lead her. Um, and she's like into it, and it's just like, but I just picture like, looking up with the eyes, just, oh, everything he says is wonderful, and then the Twitch stream happens, or he loses Twitch, they lose the money. It's got to be tough because you're losing the money. That hurts. He's got the issues going on with the ex-wife and the kids, and at some
He used
point
that as material, though. You know.
but at some point, April is like, "Oh, wait a minute. You know, I thought I was going to be getting a manicure and pedicure 3 days a week, and I'm here trying to, he wants me to stuff envelopes and mail them."
I don't know. If you would like my personal opinion and not just some group opinion and
That's
just
why you're here.
regurgitate it on every fucking show, I don't think that was her intention, was the manicures every fucking day and all like the clothes and shit like that. That was never a priority of hers until they met the Ricadas.
Hmm.
She was in it for the glory that Aaron promised her.
Together we can rule the universe in the 187th radio market in
Yep.
the U.S. I
Yep.
actually
All
looked
right.
that up for my video. So,
Yeah,
But she's not Catherine the Great. She's a dumb woods girl. So
mhm.
which leads me back to, I think that's what I was trying to say, although poorly, is she was looking to build an empire, and then a year or so into it realizes there is no empire. It's
Yeah.
it, it's not going to happen, and she gets distracted by the wiles of cocaine and Nick Rekieta.
it happens, dude. And dude, she's young enough for this to be able to bounce back from it. Like, shit, girl, live your fucking life. You ain't got no fucking kids. Make mistakes, do some cocaine, fuck some internet lawyer, and move on with your life. Have like a great life somewhere else, dude.
Yeah. It'll be an
And,
interesting story in a few years, you know? So,
and people can say about her what they will, but she's probably handled this better than anybody else involved in this, right?
can't argue. Can't argue at that point.
You know, um, because but it's so interesting. It's like, to me, it's interesting because I like the relationship stuff. Like, I like to know how people fall into things.
Yeah.
And I always feel like what happens is stuff gets ratcheted up just a little bit, a little bit. I don't think anybody sits at home on Thursday plotting to go out on Saturday, get involved in a polycule, sit in a hot tub, and do cocaine. It's
Yeah.
like a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And I guess what I was wondering is, was do you think that April was more of an innocent in this, or that she was a full participant, a full go for it?
No, for sure, a full participant, full go for it. She's fucking adult as fuck and made decisions. I mean, you can't. I say dumb woods girl, but she's not fucking retarded.
Yeah,
You know, she can consent.
right.
Right.
Because what prompted me to ask the question is that people refer to her as a dumb woods girl, right? And that like she was
I'm a
stupid and
dumb woods girl.
she painted parts in a factory.
Mhm.
Right, and you may not have a PhD, but you'd probably be one of the first people that somebody else would call if they needed advice on an important topic,
Yeah.
right?
I,
So, uh, I and that's what I'm wondering. I'm just wondering if the portrayal of April as a dumb woods girl matches up with the person that you met.
I didn't really get to spend a whole hell of a lot of time with her, first of all. I did get to like hang out with her a bit, take a few pictures, talk to her a bit, and she was incredibly friendly. She wanted to make sure she said hello to everybody. She wanted to make sure everybody was having a good time and they were comfortable. I'm pretty sure she bought a few of the freaking chatters a couple drinks. You know what I
wow.
mean? She was personable. She was lovely. I fucking loved April.
She sounds like Nancy Reagan to me, like a great hostess, which is, like a very old quality to have, but high EQ.
Yeah, and
Uh,
very gracious.
and, and maybe a bit naive, but not stupid, right? And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the all right.
And I can understand, a young lady getting caught up in some shit. So I'm not gonna fucking judge her for it.
I think like one thing I always think about is how these little portals open up in life where you're in the middle of wherever, central Minnesota, and suddenly you see this guy that has like some modicum of fame and access and privilege, and you're like, oh, I could go through this one sliding door and have a weird time doing coke with him and his wife and doing some degenerate stuff. At least it's something different, and it's a different headspace. One thing I also wanted to mention here is I've talked about it a couple times in videos, but there's a really interesting book that I came across called Terror, Love, and Brainwashing by a doctor named Alexandra Stein, who was herself in a cult. And she has this thing called attachment theory, which equates like the totalitarian control in cults, domestic violence relationships, and totalitarian regimes. It's a really interesting book. I don't know if either of you have heard of it.
No,
No.
but it's now on the list. I yeah, because when it comes to April, when it comes to people, I have a feeling that maybe younger people or less worldly people make assumptions. uh, oh, they're just stupid. I would never get involved in that. I'm too smart for it. This would never happen to me. And they're the same people that get involved with it and have it happen to them. And that's what I mean by ratcheting up, right? You don't usually just turn one day. It just becomes you're involved in something and it's more like, how did I get here? Not that I was going forward for it, right? So,
Yeah.
I've always
Well,
said yeah, exactly. I've always said that and I've always gone around, Leo, saying that I'm incredibly susceptible to cults. I'm susceptible to Stockholm syndrome because I let myself sometimes because it's just more comfortable to slide into something. I don't know. And I am a girl, so this is a female perspective. I have no
mhm.
idea what it is like for the male perspective in this regard, but I, I, I'm susceptible to just follow the herd for sure if I choose to, like I said, because it's fucking comfortable. And there's a lot of people who are traumatized or whatever. But I think so much better.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Thank
like a billion times
you.
better. No, I don't have to like fucking
thank
keep
Dave
going
Sauer
backwards
for
in my
that.
chair.
Sorry, guys.
Love you,
Thank you
Dave.
so much, Dave.
Dave is home. Yeah, in my the
I'm
last video
sorry
that
about all the bad things I said about you earlier.
love you, Dave. In my last video that I did about, yeah, I can hear you like in a muffled way, Dave. You're better now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I was just gonna say, like in my last video, I did like a whole thing like comparing Aaron to like a crappy cult leader because this is something I've been thinking about and talking about for a long time because like I the point we were making is like people don't think that they could get involved in a cult. Well, that's like hardwired into human behavior. Like a lot of our groups are
Oh, for
versions of
sure,
a
for sure.
cult, you know.
Okay, can I ask? Let me ask you this: how much different is it than everybody putting about a billion got 'em emotes when Buzzy calls into NLO? That you
Yeah,
can the behavior's the same in each chat, you're just picking on and again, not ever gonna defend all the shitty things that Aaron has done. I'm just for whatever reason, I've been incredibly argumentative for I'll argue whatever the fuck, even if I disagree, you know what I mean? But there's no reason people should be so hyper focused on the cult like activity of Aaron's chat when it's literally not the same. It's the same as any other content creator's chat. In my
yeah,
chat, I have like 12 people in my Twitch chat, and it's a fucking cult in there for
mm.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's like a very common thing. Go ahead, Shmuel. I'm sorry,
I
cut you off.
Lemmy, you don't strike me as somebody that just follows along. Like, even if you joined a cult, you'd be leading it in 6 months. Um,
I would let them think they're leading it and give them suggestions on how I think it would make them better because that is my place. I'm
Yeah,
not supposed to lead, and I know, like, oh, I'm not like I'm not shitting on feminism or anything like that. Me personally, I'd really rather not have that kind of fucking responsibility. So, like, I will suggest to the guy who's in charge for sure.
yeah.
so I want to put something Crumb put up here. He said, someone told me once I could start a cult, and I will say that at 63 and having watched all these cults and just seen cults of personality in life, anybody can start a cult. You know, it's more about who follows you than who
Right.
the leader is, almost. Um,
Yeah, it's like a
but
cake. You know, you need all these different ingredients, and like the sort of like the soil of it is like the cultural context. So like in the 60s and 70s, everybody was starting a cult because shit was so crazy. And you know, people were looking for something different. And the follower thing is very apt because I've said this before. I think it's almost more important who your first devoted follower is than who the leader of the cult is, because like the followers are the ones that really do all of the work. Like, and I think your point's really interesting, Lemmy, because there's something. A lot of the like major cults of recent years have had the um, lieutenant or second level structure almost entirely made up of women, the power behind the throne, you know, for
Like the
whatever.
Goebbels.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a bad way to go. You know, I mean, women aren't. We say, you know, women are dumb. Women are dumb. Yes, women absolutely think with their stupid fucking hearts first, but we eventually are able to logic our way out of our own feelings. You know what I mean? If that makes
Well,
sense.
yeah, and I think that that's also very important because women are focused on feelings, and you know, a lot of this might just be because of evolutionary biology. You know, they're much more skilled in the kind of things that like make cults run. Like if you look at the different ways that little girls and little boys interact, um, you know, little girls are much more sort of talking amongst themselves and like forming and dropping friendships quickly, and that you know sort of has similar patterns to group behavior
They
in cults.
exchange information rather quickly as well. Women.
Hmm. And women are generally more interested. All this stuff is on a continuum, you know, so it's an average, but women are generally more interested in people and men
Mhm.
things.
And nuance.
men,
Which
right?
is fun. I mean, like, I'm not saying that men lack all nuance. I'm just saying that women tend to hyper focus more on nuance, where that would like be kind of a detriment to men, evolutionarily speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me. The not a feminist thing or the feminist bullshit or whatever. You are if you're a girl boss, right? You may not think, yes, you are. I mean, whether you admit it or not, you are. People respect you. People listen to your opinion. People want you around. It's all those things. Whether or not you think you have the power may be a different question than whether or not you do. Um, but my world, uh, where we treat, we're not where we treat, but I come from a different world than the guys in the Dabbleverse. The ones that women should be home cleaning and whatnot. Some of the most powerful people I deal with are women, and um, some of it is great because I think some of it is genetic or evolutionary in how they handle certain situations, and some of it is awful because I do watch, like, with my wife. They'll get caught up in trivial things, um, about what she said to me or how it was said and things like that. Where men, I think, sometimes will focus on, well, what's the like solving the
How
problem,
do I fix this? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm according to my wife, I'm the girl in our family, so I'm always wanting to fix people, and it's a terrible trait to have. But I was no way implying that the Steeltoe chat was a cult, or that any of these chats are a cult. But um, I think we got into that because we were thinking of Aaron's power over April, and was it really there? And my personal opinion is that I think in the beginning, like in a lot of these relationships, the one person holds the power, um, and then the other person grows, and the person with the power doesn't grow, and and so somebody like April realizes, oh, we're going to build an empire, then it's not going to happen, and then they become more aware, and I want to move on and try something else. But how do you do that?
I think his frustrating autism was more tolerable when they were making 20 grand a month.
Yeah, money tends to paper over a lot of things. Um, yeah, there's so much interesting to talk about there. I don't know if I
But
want to launch into.
I don't want to imply, and I never thought that April was some dumb woods girl without any common sense or any of those things. I mean, it's relationships, right? We're talking about evolution and genetics. Who do you go to? You're in Minnesota, so it's a small. The fish bowl is small, and he was the bigger guy in a very small fish bowl, right? There's no other way out for her.
God, that's depressing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, this is a drive-by. So April was young and extremely impressionable. She got in way over her head. As for Aaron and the Ricaders, I consider her to be most decent of the four. I think we've all
I,
agreed on
yeah,
that.
absolutely. She's a freaking gem, dude. I was hoping that wasn't really her on Twitter, but I'm pretty sure it was her. And like in my head, I'm like, bitch, get out of here, go, run, be free.
Well, the rumor mill at the time was that she was trying to break free, and Nick was still Nick is to this day, because you'll hear Melton say, She's not coming back, Nick. She's not coming back." Um, so it may be that, like, Nick, I it's hard to get out of it. Is really what I guess I'm trying to say. It's just hard to leave that situation.
I've got a little hypothesis about that too. I don't. Okay, Nick Rekieta. This is how I think he actually feels about April. I think he fakes how he feels about her to make her feel good because she's got low self esteem, and this was a really weird situation. That's what I think. I think he cares for her, but I don't think he loves her the way he said he loves her.
Hmm.
Or he may just not like losing.
Or that's a probably a big factor.
I think
Yeah.
so often we're like mysteries to ourselves and like can't really even understand our other people's motivations, let alone our own. Or
Oh
it's
no,
so
I
easy
mean,
to trick yourself into who. But I
if
mean,
I were to
I
guess a
totally agree with
motivation,
what you're saying, though. I think that makes a lot of sense and it's an interesting hypothesis.
if I were to guess a motivation, it would be for content and for like pity clout. I loved her. He has a reason to pine for somebody dramatically on stream or on Twitter.
I, yeah.
I
I,
like Nick, and I like Nick. I'm not like I am shitting on Nick a little bit, but I
No,
like
you're
I like
you're
everybody.
giving you're
Again,
giving your opinion. You're not shitting. You're not shitting on him. It's you're
okay.
giving your opinion, and it's he got himself here, right? I mean, it's not like we forced him to do what he did. Having I met Nick in Vegas, talked to him for a little while, so it's not like I know him. Um, but he did come across to me as a guy who's like he likes adulation. He
Mm.
likes people to look up to him. He likes people to think he's smart. Um, and you meet this pretty girl who's sort of marital expectations are kind of falling apart. Um, and and he slides right into that position, you know. And he also had money, which sometimes helps change a lot of things.
Have you guys ever heard of the wheel of power and control? Have you ever heard of that concept?
I am aware of it, but don't ask me to explain it. Or I can do
So
the
I was just gonna I was just gonna bring it up because like it's something that comes from I think second wave feminist theory. So it has that layer to it if you're not into that. But I one thing I am always interested in is like finding things from I'm really into like niche groups, and so I used to like spend a lot of time in like turf message boards and like radical feminist writers like Andrea Dork, and I actually really enjoy, even though I disagree with her massively. But the wheel of power control is like this sort of simple graphic that's used in a lot of domestic violence stuff, where it shows like all these different techniques and like the way that relationships usually resulting in domestic violence or some sort of power control issues evolve because of like differing um, differing factors involving like money and things that increase and decrease power and control. And like that's usually when you see relationships break up or have an affair. I think is like when there's some radical change in the in the power situation and who actually is holding the power in the relationship.
uh, my part of my experience or my experience in a lot of these things is the person that you thought you were getting in the relationship a year later is not the person you're in the relationship with, and and that's
Or
why you move
you
on.
really want to be a really super duper popular YouTuber, and your wife
Yeah,
is now fucking a really super duper popular YouTuber.
yeah. What do you think about the whole stuff about like him being an actual cuck? Like one thing that like never really
I
like
don't
was
know.
brought
It's
up one
hilarious.
time. Like
I'm gonna go ahead and even if it's not true, I'm gonna swear it's true because it's fucking hilarious. I'll never let it die,
do you guys
even if
remember
I get
somebody
concrete
finding?
evidence that it's not true.
Do you guys remember somebody finding a FetLife profile for April and Aaron that was like way older than the whole Arcada stuff, and like Aaron had like a really weird reaction to it. Like anyway, sorry.
I don't
Say
remember
no,
that,
no, no.
but I
Say that
did
again, Leo.
see it.
Like this, like I can't remember when this came out. It was probably like right after the divorce, but somebody resurfaced images from a FetLife profile, which is like a community where you anonymously meet other people that are into like fetish stuff, where you wear like I don't know, whatever leather and bondage, that kind of thing.
Can I actually point out a chat?
Sure.
Smaug says Nick is also built different in that he is Aaron with a foot up money wise and a hedonistic bent that makes your normal freak seem super normal. So
Right?
the Fet Life stuff that I get it. Sometimes I get that, man. Come on.
I'm
But
not
going
like
full blown like swinging with your friends and like destroying your empire, that's
yeah.
a bit much.
I just thought it was an interesting little sprinkle of an indicator there. I'm not passing judgment at all. It's just interesting that his reaction to it was the most interesting thing in my
That
recollections
is
for a while.
interesting. If you had a weird, I want to see it. I want to see it.
There's a clip
Uh,
somewhere out there. Yeah,
I yeah, I just if you're young and you're single and you're Aaron and you're bored, um, I can just see FetLife profiles coming up for people who would never follow through on it. Um,
yeah.
so I never, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's a
Listen
fet like
to us, a bunch of women just hyper focusing on nuance.
Yeah.
I definitely. And all right, let me. And this is a question for you. So, and I'll say how I felt first. I liked the relationship, the on-screen relationship between April and Aaron, because I thought they were like, it was fun watching her come in as uh, no, as a nobody. I'm going to be taught. She's going to be taught by not Nick, Aaron. Aaron is the master, and through the process, you see April becoming stronger, uh, and more, just saying more and being more in the show. And I would think I would look sometimes at Aaron, and it would be like he'd like looking at her like he wanted her to shut up.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember a little shot she would take at him there towards the end and stuff, where I would be like, "Get it, get that shot in, girl."
Mm.
Yeah, I would have had more fun if it had ended with just the relationship falling apart, not all the other stuff. Um, and the hilarious ending, the ending of the movie to me would be April sitting down at her radio board in New York City, being the number one, broadcaster in morning radio. Like that would have just been, and
That's a
Aaron's
movie right there. I'd watch the shit out of
s-
that.
sweeping up somewhere. Um, all right, so back to this. So, what do we think of? Look, I think the general consensus on the HROs is that they're they're bullshit. That there really is no fear, um, and that Aaron is just doing this to fuck with people. Is that am am I right?
I'd say like on the NLO side and on most of the internet that you'll find that's the general consensus. Even Kiwi Farms, which had been notably the big pocket of supporters for Aaron, has begun to really turn on him. So yeah, that's what the general opinion seems to be.
Yeah, I feel like at this point he's just like throwing shit at the wall, like hoping something will stick to the wall.
That's yeah. All right, that's what I think too. All right, so let's let's move on. We'll come back to the sort of court stuff in a little bit, but let's move on to this. So
Yeah, I was having more fun talking about cult stuff, so this is great for me. Yeah.
Aaron gets trolled, right? Basically, he fucks up. He obviously fucked up. But he's been trolled mercilessly by Melton and others. So, i- is it his response to it that's made it worse, or is this the best you can do? I mean, how would you, if somebody came after you the way that they came after him, how you obviously wouldn't have given them as much fuel to add to the fire, but how does somebody respond to that? Is there a correct way to do this or not?
It always reminds me of a line from the Royal Tenenbaums where Owen Wilson's playing like a pseudo BS historian, and he's like, everybody uh, presupposes that Custer died at Little Bighorn, but what if he didn't? You know, it's like you can't really unring that bell. You know, like how do we like move backwards into time and place to where like we do the initial? But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like I think a reasonable person would probably just like not comment on it and give it the old Greystone treatment, you know, just ignore it and just be uninteresting to them, or they'll move on and harass somebody else. But
Let me
like
any thought on that?
Yeah. No, he's absolutely correct. If you didn't want it to go away, you would gray rock that bitch. That's like my go-to move for like people I don't want around. I just give it no breath. That's what I call it. So when and you can I think Moody has said it himself and Patrick has said it himself. There is like a certain level of like you gotta kind of dig the guy to continue to watch the guy. He keeps sticking it's his personality that keeps you coming back wanting more of him no matter what it is. There's some people that unironically like the dude, and there's some people that are just absolutely grotesquely fascinated with how many rakes he could step on. You know what I mean? And that is a totally valid thing, I feel like. I've been waiting. Even when I was a mod, I was waiting for some shit like this to happen. Because I'm like, somebody could make him just a garden of lol cows. You know what I mean? He is a garden unto himself. He's a field of cows.
Yeah, because I wonder about like with him. What fascinates me, I love the coverage. There's some just purient interest or whatever you could call it, but
Prurient,
I
yeah.
am I am so blown away at how he handles each of these situations as they come up. It's like it's the old Shaggy song of it wasn't me, and I was caught fucking in the kitchen. No, it wasn't me. And the minute you think you've got him and he's got to come out and and explain something, he totally turns it around and it's
Yeah.
insane to me.
And he stops winning as soon as it stops driving you nuts because he's not going to stop doing it. He knows you know he's fucking wrong. He's doing it to make you jump out of your fucking funny bag. So the moment that you just, all right, you fucking idiot, that's the moment he doesn't win.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know?
going back to
But
something we were
and
talking about
hold on,
earlier. Sorry.
hold on just 1 second, and I think
Sure.
Melton does it different. Melton doesn't focus on, like, destroying him. He's not, like, super really even that fucking mean about it. Like I said, it's, like, more of a morbid, grotesque, like, "How the why? What? Why?"
Hmm.
Yeah, I also think that Melton's thing is he'll look, he'll come after it. It's like, and Aaron is just he just keeps feeding Melton stuff to come out about, and it would be like irresponsible of Melton to just walk away from it. You know, uh, podcasting malpractice almost.
Hmm. I was
So
just gonna say, like we were talking about how Aaron, or how earlier about how Nick like really feeds off of like positive reinforcement. It's almost like he's like the dark and light world version of Aaron, like where Aaron I think was obviously like ignored and like probably his parents weren't paying him a lot of attention at home, and so like the only reaction he could get from people was negative. And so it's like they developed on like opposite tracks almost, like Batman and the Joker or whatever.
it, yeah, I can see that, but I feel like that what he's got to work really hard. Like he's got to work really hard at this, and it's at some point that negative attention has to hurt. I mean, I can't believe that Aaron leaves the show every day thinking he's winning. You know,
Yeah, there's some revealing text that came up at DabbleCon where Aaron referred through text to Nick has his career as like barely burning, and so it definitely seems like there's at least some acknowledgement there. The other thing I was looking into is if you look into like the clinical diagnosis of lying, it's really interesting because there used to be stuff like Munchausen's syndrome or facetious disorder listed in the DSMs, but they're now just grouped into like essentially the cluster B categories. And it's just interesting to me because the cluster B categories are narcissism. Excuse me, no, this is the wrong one. Anyway, they're like the histrionic personality, those type of things. But there's also a different type of lying where it's like people that can't stop lying, like it's compulsive. And it almost seems like he might have like both of them or something like that because at times it seems like he like can't stop himself and just says like random stuff to fill the void, and at other times it seems like he has like a Machiavellian purpose, and that's the difference. That's the way that psychologists differentiate between the two types of lying, is whether or not there's a motive.
he's like an insecure Machiavelli. Yeah, he wants to be Machiavelli, but he can't quite get over that hump uh, of not being concerned.
Mm, yeah, but I mean, like if you look at I don't know. Just read the Wikipedia article. It'll tell you about how they have like lower levels of those type of emotions like concern and empathy. But yeah,
Right. But I mean, if the YouTube streaming universe was not filled with these people, where would we get our entertainment? Uh, the only shows left that make any money on television are the reality shows, which make fools of you're right. They make fools of people, or you get people who are just unaware, zero self awareness, um, and
He's our
so
Quasimodo. He's the king of fools.
yeah.
yeah,
And
he
he's
is.
lumpy, so
He's very lumpy, but and that's the stuff that blows me apart. Like I can't imagine myself doing like the stuttering John thing where, I'm a boxer and a fighter and I'm going to kick your ass. And you take one look at me, right? And I've got noodly arms and a gut. Um, how do you like I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. And Aaron with the boxing stuff, right? And then the balls to write on where he had the two fights, but he lost both. So instead of putting 0 and 2, he just puts 2. And it's like if you're trying to seem strong or seem like the big guy, you draw more attention to yourself.
no, just know. I want everybody to know, just in that moment, just know, Aaron felt like the hugest fucking loser in the world writing that too in that box. So
Yep.
regardless of what it made him look like, just know he felt
Hmm.
what he was supposed to feel.
See,
It's
that's always been my question about him. Is does he feel like the biggest loser or does he feel like two
I think
with pride?
he wouldn't get so fucking manic if he didn't.
I think it oscillates too. And this is so awesome to talk to you guys about this because I've been like so deep in this tank for like the last week, like, and thinking about whether or not to even include it in like a potential video. But I think the angle I was going to take to it is I don't know if you guys have seen the movie The Cable Guy with Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost like an allegory of Aaron's life. That movie, it's very strange. I just rewatched it like a couple days ago, and it's like, wow, weird.
What is the other Adam Sandler movie where they're portraying his life is bought and paid for
Click.
by
Happy Gilmore.
no, it's I'm
Happy
saying Adam
Gilmore
Sandler.
was.
I meant Jim Carrey. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Truman
But
Show.
Truman Show, right? Like I keep expecting Aaron is going to become aware
Oh, no, no,
and
no.
it
Aaron
never
Aaron
happens.
is an aware Truman Show. He is a fully aware Truman Show who just chose not to fucking leave.
Oh, wow. God,
That's
that's
why he's
great.
so weird. You know what I mean? I feel like that. When I met him in real life, I swear to God, that was my very first thought. I was like, he acts like he's in the Truman Show, but just never left, and found out he acts like he's being recorded all the time and just trying to interact with people.
That is so profound. That's crazy. Wow.
I, so putting yourself in Aaron's position, here you are, right? So there's three people. We're sitting here talking shit about him, for lack of a better way to describe it. Almost all of the attention he gets is negative. Is he, if he knew this, is he one sitting there like, wow,
He's
look,
happy. He's happy
everybody's
that we're talking
interested
about
in
him.
me?
Yeah, yeah.
Or is he like, I can't believe they're looking at me?
I don't think it matters as long as he's getting money. As long as he's hitting the goal, it doesn't fucking matter. And as long as his numbers are up, because I don't know how autistic he is about that now, but like,
Very.
he used to be so distracted by that shit.
Right, but there's a certain look, there's a real his numbers are down. No matter how you shake it, right? His numbers are down and his money is down. He's hitting a goal, we think, if based upon what he says. But it's obviously not what it was. It's not what it was even a year ago. How much do you put up with? How much indignity are you willing to suffer for this?
All of it, man. Yeah.
He seems like an all of it man. Yes, he does. If he hasn't quit by now, I don't think he's ever going to. So
Like
I
he
guess we're
still
gonna
tries
have
to
this little piggy for the rest of our lives.
right.
Yes.
He still tries to pump up the numbers by saying that he's on like 4 or 5 different platforms now, but like, like he's on Kick where like maybe one person is watching. It's like that kind of thing where his show is like almost like a continuous box score of like his money coming in, like different numbers that he's throwing out there. And yeah, it's very
Yeah,
strange.
because or Twitter, where people. 'Cause I always feel like Twitter. If you walk by your phone, they're going to count that as a view,
Yep.
and and I always think that's the. I always when people are desperate to claim how many viewers they have, they start including other platforms, right?
Right.
Nobody, because when the guy's doing really well, it's YouTube numbers, it's all they'll talk about. And when it starts to slide and things go away, then it's YouTube and there's people on Twitch watching us, and then YouTube people at Twitch, then X, then Twitch, then YouTube, then and we have combined numbers or the Rumble numbers, which are before somebody goes live, they'll have 600 viewers, and you're like, and you can watch the chat, and the chat doesn't move. And somebody made that comment the other day, I think on this little pig, it might have been Rocco, who said somebody did a what we would call an N tower here, but they did a Kayla tower, right? And they had KAY, and the chat just didn't move past that. And so um, I don't think you can stop the chat and freeze it in position. You can delete stuff, but it meant
Those,
nobody was coming on after.
yeah.
I'm going to add my good friend Dave Sarah to the program. Hey, Dave.
Hello.
It's always such a
Hello,
pleasure.
Dave.
How's it going? Hopefully my mic sounds better now, but I don't know.
It does. Yeah.
It does, yeah. You sound
All right,
great.
great. Just had to change the cord, and it sounds like can't use shitty cords with audio. Got to use the nice thick cords, right, Schmuel?
Right,
Right.
right.
All
As,
right. Well,
as I
I'll do
learned.
my
By the way,
plugs or get out of
you
here.
will be proud of me because I did help Panhandler set up his mic, and it was successful.
Nice.
Wow.
So
Wow.
even the elderly. Dave,
Oh my
what are your
god, I
thoughts?
just realized why Panhandler's mad at me because I abandoned him on this stream.
Oh no.
No, he's
Oh
still here.
no.
You
I'm
never
sorry,
came back to get him. You abandoned him.
Did I abandoned my boy?
Pan,
Bastard in a basket.
Panhandler's such a good guy, but he's very no
He's
bullshit.
he's
You
he's a
know?
he's a menace on Twitter these days.
I'm
Yeah.
about to actually abandon you all right now because I'm starving and I want
Okay.
ice
Sugar.
cream and
Yeah, no,
pancakes.
get her done.
Okay.
All
I have some
right.
Heath
Panhandler
bars in my
cakes?
freezer for later as well.
All right.
Mm,
Ooh,
yum!
Heath
I got a
bars.
Three Musketeers in a Reese's, 2 Reese's cups.
All right. Before you go, Lemmy, uh,
Give me your
give us your
plugs.
give us your final thoughts
Oh,
on this.
okay.
Where do you see this ending up? We want to know where do you think Aaron's streaming and radio career is going to go, and what's your prediction on the court? Does he wind up in jail or no?
Aaron is one of those people who can be dipped in shit and come out smelling like a rose, like in spite of everything, and it's going to drive everybody insane, including myself, but I do think that's what's going to fucking happen. I don't want it to happen. I hope some interesting shit happen. I don't want the man to go to jail, but it'd be fun if he was like there for like 6 hours. You know what I mean? Not 90 days, that shit sucks. But I don't know. I just want it to keep going so we can get continue with the primo content with Melton and the pretty antisocial and all the good shit. Not WATP because Carl sucks.
We are so on the same wavelength, Lemmy.
The world is turning on poor Carl.
Oh, he'll be fine. They're turning on
It's
Adam Bush.
nature.
It's Adam Bush is what it is.
Wait, it's funny. I was just DMing with Adam a little while ago, and I have not watched the WATP in weeks. Uh, and it's funny how some stuff becomes like it's appointment, I have to watch it at a certain time, and then it's like it goes from me having to watch it at a certain time to me not necessarily seeing it live to me not seeing it at all. Like it just doesn't interest me at some point, and I think that's what happens to all these shows at some point.
Mhm.
Like Tears
But
of
you
the
put it
Rain.
back on like an old shoe. You'll get sick of it because it's just over fucking bombarding everything. You go and watch some fucking, I don't know what you guys, mukbangs. I don't know. You go watch that for a little while.
Wait,
Watch Sandman. I don't know, and then come back.
you don't eat your old shoes? Oh.
No,
Hmm.
no,
Hmm.
Hmm.
All right.
I
not
I try.
anymore.
What do you call it? The thing I've been watching lately is the Aussie Guys podcast on Sunday mornings, and he's been doing Gino and Kiki coverage for quite a bit, and it's
Hmm.
so much fun, and it's new and it's
Those guys are great.
different, and
I think I'd
they're
rather be
just
waterboarded. I hate like all of those people. Just like they're not like hate them, but just like listening to them, they're all grating to me. So that would be quite the combo. But it's interesting that there's that contrast there.
yeah, he definitely pulls stuff out. Um, so thank you so much for coming on,
No
and
problem.
been very lucky to have you.
You're
And
not. You're not. I was literally doing nothing. I was fucking high on edibles, dude. I'm not. You're not lucky
Hell
to
yeah,
have me.
sister.
Fuck off with that bullshit. Stop that.
no, go for it. I just it's rare that there's somebody in the Dabbleverse that is so widely respected among
Stop
everyone.
saying that shit. It's making me feel weird, and I don't like that shit.
It's
Me
Yeah.
Don't
too.
true.
do it.
It's
Schmuel.
true, right?
Stop
I'm
being
leaving.
cringy.
Good.
Goodbye. We'll see you
Everyone get
later.
the fuck out of here, dude. Where's the end
Creepy.
button?
Oh, I'll take care of it.
It's on. It's
We'll
on.
Okay,
just do
thank
the
you.
old.
Bye.
It's on my side. Bye.
The end button. The
Bye.
Once you're
end.
here, you're not allowed to leave.
The end
Yeah.
button is in Schmuel's future.
Wow, that was fascinating, man.
It's been in here for a while. Lemmy's a trip, and we haven't had. It's hard to get. Other than the pretty antisocial pod, it's tough to get a woman's opinion on stuff, and the PASP
It's tough to listen
is
to an opinion too. Hey, ew,
very.
whoa.
They're very fact checky and stuff. So I just want to. How does it make you feel? What do you think? And especially somebody who was a mod, who was a fan.
Yeah, that was really interesting insight. And also, I like that. You know, it's you don't find many people that are willing to like buck the trend and say something unpopular, and that's something I really respect and enjoy because you go into say somebody that's like traveled into many like niche weird cult worlds, like you kind of just come to like learn to, I don't know, not necessarily reject what people based on what everyone else says, or it's just a really good quality, a human quality to have. So yeah, that was very interesting.
Right. You're not trying to be the person that everybody likes. You're just trying to be yourself.
Yeah,
All right, let's move on from Steel Toes talk and spend
sure.
about the last half hour into the cult stuff that I know you and Dave love. And I also promised him we could do this. Um,
Yeah, I'm all
all right,
into it.
so
I'm gonna be
predictions.
in and out, big guy.
Hey,
I
no
know.
problem.
Prediction, Leo.
I'm not the big.
Uh, Steel Toe prediction.
That's such a great question, and I think it's almost more uncertain in my mind, like based on how the court will deal with it, because they're so. It's just such a weird situation, such a weird type of case, and they're so all over the place in the way that they handle stuff. It's almost like more dependent on their staffing levels and stuff like that. Because like so much stuff just gets filtered out of being prosecuted because people don't want to deal with it or whatever. But I'd say like this thing that happened this weekend was pretty bad. And if they have the same willingness to put their foot down on it as the prosecutor seemed to have at the hearing where they gave comments about the violating conditions of release when Aaron's plea was rejected, if they have that same attitude towards this, I think he's going to go to jail for a bit. And I again don't. I agree with Lemmy that I don't wish anybody to go to jail because it's just not helpful. But I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, but if you're the one that's opening the door to the cell, I it's like people say what you will about Todd V. Peterson. He negotiated Aaron a great deal, and all Aaron had to do was shut up, and he couldn't stop himself from doing that. Right. So where he is, the position he's in, is of his own doing. Um, my personal opinion is I think he's going to do some jail time, I don't think it'll be a lot, maybe 10 days, something like that. But I think it's going to have more to do with the lack of respect that he's shown the court
Yeah.
and pissing off prosecutors more than anything else. Unless this lawyer is the guy he's gotten is somehow super great or connected.
Hmm.
Dave, any thought on that?
I predict he gets. I predict he gets whatever time served ends up doing about, like you said, 10 days, like a week. He'll do a week and then they'll let him out. I think. Other than that, I don't really watch. I'm not the one to talk to about Steeltoe coverage.
And
I'm
when
pretty out of the loop with it.
yeah, and here we go from $50 and a little bit of probation
I
to
know. Well, yeah,
this.
that is true though. Like we were talking shit about Peterson, but that is a good point. He did kind of get him a pretty good deal, especially the wife of an attorney in the same county. It's like it's sort of a courtesy to kind of make sure that some justice is served. It feels like almost. So yeah, that's a good point. So I wouldn't really shit on Peterson either. I think that's a good point that he kind of worked him a good deal, and all Aaron really had to do was shut the fuck up.
And he didn't. And I couldn't imagine being his attorney. You know, like how and a flat fee attorney at that. Because how
Probably
many
he
phone
probably
conversations are there? Like,
he
just shut up, Aaron.
no, he probably talks really quickly, really fast, and just tries to get as much as he can in like 30 minutes. We didn't hit the goal. I can only pay you for 30 minutes.
I think two of the
Yeah.
biggest skills in being an attorney, especially in that line of work where you have like criminal defense clients, is negotiating, which we've talked about. And Peterson was able to cut a good deal, have good relationships with people that make that sort of stuff possible. But client control is the other one. It's like being able to have your client do what you say and take your advice and have that sort of relationship. And that's for whatever reason, like it's just a much different kettle of fish than like the whole structure of a professional society relationship. And yeah, Aaron would be a nightmare. A nightmare.
Just an absolute nightmare. I would be so frustrated having to deal with this guy. You know, just don't do this. Just don't say anything. Reminds me of like having a girlfriend. When you're in a situation with another guy and she has to open her mouth
Yeah.
and cause a problem for you. I can't say it. So I want to move on to the cult stuff. What what is Leo's definition of a cult? What do you consider a cult?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and I think my view on this has been informed a lot from the writer Tony Ortega, the guy who runs the Underground Bunker and writes about Scientology like every day for the
Hmm.
last 20 plus years. And he just does his way of dealing with that is just to not really engage in it. It's not an important concept. It's not a term of art. It's not something that people in the field of new religious studies really get into because it's just sort of a merry-go-round. But I do think it's interesting to try to figure out like what makes a group go from a group that like is, has just like high demand and then a group that is like coercive control. And, that's a really interesting, and it's something that it's hard to tease apart. There's a lot of literature on this exact question, but
Well, is coercive control kind of the would that be a defining term to use?
yeah, I mean, I guess that would be that could be like one a good prerequisite but then it's like the essentially you're in a syllogism because now you're replacing the definition of cult with coercive control. It's like so you just end up getting into these weird semantics tennis type
Right.
situations.
'Cause, I mean, look, uh, I know people that will call the Catholic Church a cult, right?
Yeah,
But if you stop going to mass on Sunday
yeah.
and start doing whatever you want to do, hitting strip clubs every day, they're not coming after you and telling you that you have to come back,
And
right?
that's something that you'll hear Rick Ross or Tony Ortega say a lot. That's a good one good test. What happens when you leave?
And I've been following lately the goings on at Bethel Church in
Oh
Reading,
yeah,
Pennsylvania. In not I
love to
keep
hear
saying
more about
Pennsylvania,
this. Yeah.
in California, and the members talk about um, the coercive control. If they start to question what's going on and they try to leave, right? Uh, they they won't necessarily mess with them or threaten them, but they'll ostracize them. So these are the people that you've been friends with, your kids are friends with, and now it's like the sin of omission as opposed to commission. Um, you've got to think about that, and it's very interesting. And then because what's going on in all of these places is particularly this it's known as the new apostolic reformation, and basically it's changed old line church structure from having an elders and a pastor and these things. Now you have apostles and prophets who are appointed by God to lead, and um, there's a lot of cognitive disconnect, right?
Who are
God
the
want
apostles and prophets? Are they different than the ones that were previously recognized, like in the New Testament or the Old Testament?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're different. They would think they say they're the same.
Hmm.
And they would think that um, the apostle who runs, say, Bethel, will say that he is an apostle appointed by God, just like uh,
Hmm.
Peter or Paul or any of those people. Um, but the difference is, and when it comes particularly to the prophets, was in most prophets existed in the Old Testament, right? And when you were wrong, you were struck down, you know,
Hmm.
and you're, and I can't remember which uh, in the Bible, but it says if you're supposed to test the word of a prophet, and if it's wrong, you're supposed to ignore them. And these guys get it wrong all the time. It was like 90-10 that Trump was going to win the 2020 election, as an example. And then they come out and they'll come out with some explanation of why they got it wrong, but they didn't really get it wrong. They had the timing off, or something like that. But the lives, it's the it's there's millions of people involved in this. And these are people that, like, they can't afford their car insurance, but they're sending and but on Sunday, or whatever it is, they're giving that same amount of money to this church. Um, and there are quite a number of stories of people foregoing medical treatment because God was going to heal them, um, and on and on and on. Um, but it's very sensitive in they really build you up. They're big. Uh, Bethel. There was another place called Hillsong, which fell apart because of a sex scandal. Um, they pump out a lot of music, and it's all really feel good, pump you up music. Um,
Open
and
the light in your, what is that? Open the light in your
right,
heart, light, or whatever. Yeah, that's the
yeah,
one I always
and
think of.
and people are just like they're really into it. Um, but as their pastors fall, these people become lost. So is it a cult? They're not chasing after the people, right? But they are coercing them in their everyday lives. But that's me, and my view of that stuff. And then you've got like Scientology, which will sort of hunt you down. I don't know if they're still doing that, but they had the squirrel, was it? They either called the people the squirrel or they had the squirrel squad.
Both, yeah. The people that squirreled the tech, in L. Ron Hubbard's words, were squirrels, and then he had actually it was Miscavige in like the '90s had the Squirrel Busters, who were the guys with the GoPros on their head that were like chasing Marty Rathbun around. Yeah, yeah. It's almost one thing I think is interesting about the Bethel thing that you just brought up is like that's something that's almost like a throwback to a previous time where like that same in the ballpark of that same sort of disfellowship could happen. Disfellowshipping could happen like in your hometown because it was such a tight knit community, and so that might be also like one of the reasons why people are drawn to these groups is because they are lacking any other type of like real strong community. Yeah, Scientology is definitely yeah scores high on the cult list for sure.
Yeah. It 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 gives it's Pentecostal charismatic stuff, where they believe that they are having a one-to-one connection with God. It makes them feel important. Um, and there's a lot of the prophets are um, encourage you to believe you'll have a dream and it'll be, you know, God speaking to you. I was in a castle, you know. And what's funny about prophets, particularly these ones, are that no matter who they are, they always seem when they're brought to these guys all say they were, gone to heaven or whatever. Heaven is always reminiscent of whatever time they're in,
Heaven is a
right?
place on earth. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like there. I was been following this guy's dead for a while. Bob Jones, who was really the guy that started all this stuff, and he talks about going to heaven, and he talks about it was in the '70s, and he talks about going to heaven, and then there was a Mormon that they were was walking around headless, and he was carrying his head in a macrame bag, right? And I'm
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
well, the '70s was macrame, right? Like
That's
what,
hilarious.
right? Like, and then I don't see what do you call it? It's like it's not candles, it's electric lights, and everything revolves around what you know today.
That's so interesting. It's almost like more about the psychographics of the time than anything else.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
what
I
you
really. Sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, go. That was
Oh, I was just going to say, I really am interested in this topic because I feel like it's something I don't know as much about as like the really weird cults like Scientology and Nixium and,
no. It is
Om Shinriko.
it's pronounced Nixium. That I've never known how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I think it's Nixium, but you hear people call it Nexium, but that was the pronunciation of the heartburn medication that was on the market at the same time, so I think it's Nexium. Yeah, it
Okay.
was originally
Well,
called. They were originally Espions, ESP, Executive Success Program. It's a combination of a multi-level marketing and a cult. So
yeah. I laugh. You know about the Shakers?
yeah, sure.
Right? And there's a joke about the Shakers and the Mormons starting about the same time. And the Shakers believed in celibacy, and the men and the women slept in different dorms. And the Mormons were all about having kids. And
Yeah,
um, do you know any Shakers now? But you do know a bunch of Mormons. Um, it, I just sorry, that was just a little oddity that I found funny. But and so but where does this stuff go? And are they do they are they large, or is it more is there is what we think about Scientology outsized, or is it like legitimately a bad organization that's affected a really large group of people?
yeah. It's an interesting question because the calculus is different for Scientology than essentially any other group that you can reference. Because at one point they probably had like over 100,000 active members. And another thing that's important to talk about with these kind of cults is they have like different levels of the cult. They have different levels of control. Like you have the people that are like in the Sea Org and they're like indentured servants to Scientology, and then the people that are like in the public that are getting classes, and then the celebrities who are like worshipped, right? But like the best estimates I've seen are that Scientology has well less than 20,000 active members these days, but they have a giant war chest of billions of dollars, especially in real estate. Like they own all of downtown Clearwater, for example. So they have like infinite money and the best lawyers, and they've cultivated those lawyers for 50 plus years, and they're the most like you'd rather deal with like a multinational, like Tony Ortega used to say that people would rather deal with like a multinational like company that like a Monsanto than deal with Scientology's lawyers, because they'll just keep litigating beyond any sort of reason. They'll just go totally scorched earth because they don't want to give people the idea that you should be litigating with Scientology. They're just that like it's almost a sort of fundamentalism just about litigation.
So circling back to your earlier comment about it's the second in charge that's almost more important, right?
Yeah, at the
Uh,
beginning, yeah.
so it, was this the same way under Elron, or did Miscavige take it to new levels?
Yeah, man. And in a way, it's really interesting because Miscavige was basically Hubbard's second for the transition from Scientology 1, Hubbard Scientology, to Scientology 2, Miscavige Scientology. But there was a guy like that in the original version of Scientology. And it's a really great question. And then there was so Scientology happened actually began when L. Ron Hubbard published Dianetics in 1950. And it was like a big deal out of the gate. It sold a ton of copies, but it was sort of like a fad. And Tony, again, I reference Tony a lot because he's like written great stories that explain all this sort of stuff on his website, Underground Bunker. But he talks about how the hula hoop came out that same year in 1950. And they were both fads for like around a year. And after Scientology kind of went through its boom, it had a bust where Hubbard had to declare bankruptcy. And there was a guy who like sort of bankrolled the whole thing and got the rights to some portion of the Scientology IP after the bankruptcy. You can look it up on Tony Ortega's got an article about it on his website. I don't have access to my keyboard right now, but anyway, then what happened was that L. Ron Hubbard sort of rose from the ashes and like started up. He said, let's try the religion angle. This is about 1952. And that was a brilliant stroke of thought there, because that really was the thing that made Scientology what it is now, because it has all these sort of protections and the government's like much more circumspect about going after religions. And that's a lot of people say that was Keith Raniere's biggest mistake. Rick Allen Ross says that, the cult cult deprogramming expert, was not making NXIVM a religion. Instead, it was a business.
But what was NXIVM's angle? Like, what was what was it that would draw people in?
Well, like in the initial stages, like in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was sort of like there's been a number of these types of programs around over the years. The Landmark Forum's one of them. It's like a business training seminar where they sort of teach you vague soft skills to be better at business and like remove limiting beliefs. The number 2 person in NXIVM was Nancy Salzman, who was an expert in neuro-linguistic programming, or using sort of language and language patterns to get people to almost like a version of coercive control in language. And so they together crafted this course that would cost like tons of money, and it would sort of had an interesting effect where it like self-selected people with like more money than sense, usually like the scions of very rich families. And that's where, through these courses, which ran for like 7, 10, 15 days, they were called intensives, and they would cost like $20,000. That's where Keith and Nancy first got access to people like the Bronfman sisters, who eventually gave Raniere like hundreds of millions of dollars. So, but Nancy was very much the organizational brains of NXIVM, for sure, and she's a really interesting figure.
And what led to their downfall?
Man, I mean, I think the most proximate thing was like the fact that Keith had started a group called DOS amongst the most loyal women in the upper ranks of NXIVM, which basically was like entire purpose was to. Keith sold it as like sort of like a badass boot camp for women to like make them stronger, but like it also had this ulterior purpose where it was supposed to recruit Keith women to sleep with. So And he also, had all those members like brand something on them, which happened to be his initials, and that was what got Sarah Edmondson, one of his lieutenants, to go to the New York Times, and that was really what led to the downfall. But there's a bunch of other things. I mean, Keith just always wanted more, basically. That's sort of, I think, the pattern that happens a lot of times with.
So do most of these cults just flame out? Not to use a Branch Davidian um, reference, but do they just generally end because people just get tired and walk away? Um, or uh, does something is there a proximate cause that tends to break them up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to go over in my mind. There's almost like not enough data, especially on modern cults. But I mean, the ones that I am thinking about um, immediately are like Nixium, and then the other one is Am Shinriko. I don't know if you've heard this cult. They were a doomsday cult out of Japan that used
Yes.
sarin nerve gas in the trains. That was essentially the proximate cause of their downfall, as the government had a problem with that and then raided them and found sarin making stuff, which was actually like much less than they had before, because they thought the government was onto them before and got rid of all their stuff, and then made like a much less then brought in like much less sophisticated equipment to make like crappier sarin gas. So that was kind of like their yeah, it's like some mixture of like paranoia and sort of just the metastasizing. But I don't know. That's a really interesting thing that it would be fun to sort of like. I'm sure there's got to be good literature out there on that.
Because I wonder, would say just use Scientology as an example, right? Um, they seem to want they tried, I guess, to assimilate into society and become part of it. And the successful cults, to me, um, successful in that we still know who they are the ones that are able to do that, to assimilate. But then the
Mm-hmm.
question is, if you assimilate too much, are you just washed out? And it's a couple of weird ideas, but we can live with it, as opposed to, say, a Scientology who's so like litigious and coming after you, and the indentured servant stories and things like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think the other thing that probably happens to some degree is like the groups like the cults that are sort of go away probably get folded into other movements. So we just probably don't think of them in those sort of terms.
Yeah, I'm always interested. I'm always interested in the finances and the business aspect of this. You
Mm,
mentioned neuro linguistic programming. So when I first came, I think it was when I was first in sales, that was a big thing,
yeah,
and I had no idea why. But at some point, they started to move away from it. It was the same thing, but they didn't call it that anymore. And Tony Robbins, Tony Robbins, right,
sure,
was
yeah,
big into linguistic programming, and then he started to go away from it. Was doing the same things, but he wasn't calling it that anymore.
right,
And I wonder if it's because it became culty.
yeah.
Um, you know, um,
I think a lot of the stuff ends up getting repackaged like over and over again. I see some of the same elements in like body language experts, because a lot like what a big part of neurolinguistic programming is like mirroring your the other person you're trying to sell is like their behavior, their body language, how they sit, all that sort of stuff. It was like a big rage in like the 70s and 80s. Yeah.
I look, I remember talking to at some point I was involved with a lot of people from Thailand, and
Mm,
one of the people who worked with me said, "Do you realize that about 5 minutes after you're talking to these people, you start speaking as if you have a Thai accent?" You
mm,
know, and I wasn't even aware of doing it, but the modeling was a big part of it. You
yeah.
know, um, but it's interesting because so much of this stuff that was going to be the next big thing hasn't. And there's definite repackaging, and I also see it like, um, I think a lot of these people, they'll call it a church, but it's really a product, and we have to keep renewing that product or people aren't going to buy it. It's like, why does Coke change the logo on its cans all the time? You know, um, we've got to give you something different, but it's still the same thing. Um, I just I do- it fa- it just it fascinates me. It fascinates me how people get sucked into it as well. Um, and I'm getting a lot of that. That's part of what the Bethel Church thing and other stuff. It's led me. I found it so interesting because growing up, being in being a Christian was never a slur, right? And and now it is.
Hmm.
And it's like you can't sit. They have things that they'll call Christian TV, and you'll sit and watch them for 5 minutes. You go, no, this is a grift. This is just a grift. And I'm not a believer in any of I'm an atheist for all practical purposes. So I find it interesting in what people get sucked into and why they do it. And then I married about 12 years ago, Greek Orthodox,
Oh, really?
and it's just community. I mean, they have the religious thing around it, but it's
Mm.
it's this intertwining of religious, but yet they have the evil eye.
Yep.
Um,
I'm part Greek. My grandma was named Aphrodite Steelos, so I'm very aware of the church.
so yeah, so it, that stays because of the cultural aspect of it, and the community aspect of it. Um, this other stuff, they don't. I'm losing it, but it's interesting to me because what's happening is as I've watched a lot of these guys repackage, they've gotten more and more political, um, and have there's a thing called the Seven Mountain Mandate, right, where they need to control all seven mountains, which are politics and uh, this stu- it, and it's fascinating to me how what were seemingly normal people to me
Mm-hmm.
become caught up in all this. It's also interesting to be in a YouTube community where people who I
Yes.
thought were normal start, you find out they're flat earthers,
Yeah.
um, or everything is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a really interesting thing for me because I when I started working at the public defender agency like in 2008, I got like really deep into conspiracy world because um, I started working on a cold case where a guy was convicted based on hair and fiber microscopy evidence. And Alaska didn't have its own crime lab in the early 80s at the time this happened. And so the FBI was involved in doing the expert testimony in this case. It turns out there was a huge scandal that broke like 10 years later, where the FBI's method for hair and fiber microscopy and a bunch of other stuff was just totally flawed. And this all relates directly to the PatCon conspiracies of the 1990s, which are like Waco, Ruby Ridge, the Oklahoma City bombing, which it just passed 30 years on. And I looked very deeply into all of these things and a number of other things. And, it's almost like this is why I almost feel like it it's not really incumbent on people to have an opinion about all this different stuff. Like I definitely have things that I think about it, but it's like I just don't want to it, especially like in mixed company, like it's just sort of I don't know. It's weird to bring up and get into because it's so I don't know. It's such an alienating thing. Like I wasted years of my life being obsessed with a stupid crap. I mean, like that I can't affect, and that yeah, it's just, and I think that's sort of why people like the Dabbleverse has an appeal to me is because it's so like meaningless. And so you turn to like instead of like taking on serious things, you take on like the least serious thing, but do it in like a serious fashion, and it's kind of like a bit.
yeah, it definitely is because then you're not spending your days thinking MK Ultra is a thing, and we're all controlled by it, or
Yeah.
Palantir wants to take over the world. So it's it is interesting to me how many people are caught up in sort of the secondary and tertiary stuff,
Yep.
and their lives are passing by, you know? You get to a certain age and you're like going, "Oh, wait, everything I thought, it changed nothing." Um, and I wasted a lot of time doing that. I wish I could have it back, and it's the one thing you can. Anyway, man, I want to thank you for coming on, and I'm sorry I went off the track a little bit, but
This is
this was
beautiful for me, man. That flew.
way
Yeah.
more interesting um, than the steel toe stuff. But I wanted to put some fact behind it because there's a lot of um, rumor and this is going to happen and that's what's going to happen, and I think the reality is we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
um and
I
and
just like if I can give a quick plug here, like
yeah, go ahead.
in like I do have like a video that I was gonna release, and I will release it at some point, and it's essentially what you're saying. I just go over like all the statutes and try to make it entertaining with like allusions to stuff like just more pop cultural stuff, but like I just kind of want to show you like how the prosecutor would actually look at this because I've been involved in that process many times. And so I read all of the case law that's come out in like the last 15 years on this statute, looked at all the revisions, and just sort of tell you like what the actual elements of the offense need to be, for this to be prosecuted and then for a jury to reach a verdict should that happen, which never does. But anyway, so that's just kind of the germ of the idea, and that
Yeah,
should
and
be out.
that's the reason. And look, and that's the reason why I asked you to do this. My personal, like, I'm more interested in the people behind it and how they got themselves in this situation, you know, and how they've handled it going through it. And it's certainly, um, you could look at Nick Rekieta and say, this is one way to handle it, and probably the best if you want to put your legal troubles behind you, um, or the better of the two choices. And
Yeah,
the other way is to go Aaron and just make it worse for yourself.
yeah,
Um, but I got super fascinated in this after the arrest when Aaron went on his tour of spilling all the beans and whatnot, uh, everywhere. And I thought, one, this isn't good for you. Um, I didn't see how talking about people was going to help him, but I also really thought that he was pissing away money. It should have been parceled out. He should have done it on his own show.
yeah. It's
Um,
bad broadcasting.
well, it was just he wanted, that's the when your anger takes control of your brains, right? And I really think he thought people were going to see him as the victim
Right.
and rally to his side, and that never happened, you
Yeah.
know. If anything, it's been the reverse. But we'll save those questions. Um, your last prediction, when eventually we finally do get to an HRO hearing, if there is one, um, what do you think is going to happen?
My gut feeling is that there's never actually going to be an HRO hearing. Aaron's not going to show up for it. And I just want to say, like, you really did put your finger on it at the beginning of the stream when you're like, kind of getting burned out in the steel toe thing. Like after this last week, I'm kind of that's my feeling right now. And it would be great to just talk to you about like Colts or something that's I find much more endlessly entertaining next time or whenever. Yeah, I don't know. It is a really interesting case. It's like the most interesting thing that could happen to like some random nobody broadcaster in rural Minnesota. I mean, what a weird series of events has led to this exact moment, you know?
Yeah, my opinion is the way that this ends is that the new lawyer um, has Aaron file to withdraw, and because he did file it pro se, and yes, he is scared. You know, he'll claim that everything he said was true, but that he's been advised it really doesn't rise to the level of harassment,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was a mistake. Can we just put it all behind us? But he will have fucked with people, for a month or two, and so he'll have accomplished his goal, right?
Right.
He because you can't you can't get people to stop talking about you. That's just not going to happen. Not in this country. Um, in any event. All right, Leo. It's at Leo Helmer on Twitter, and Leo, is that the name of your YouTube channel as well?
Yeah, it's at Leo Paul Helmar, my middle name Paul. Yeah.
And are you is the original video you did just before the Aaron plea deal fell apart? Is that still up?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think I've done 3 so far. I'm struggling right now to remember what they are. It's just been so much of this. But I did one before that. I did one. Yeah, I can't even. But they're all still up. Yeah, I don't really take videos down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so if you guys haven't seen it, they are actually really good and kind of evergreen, but it'll give you a where we are from sort of an intellectual perspective as opposed to feelings. And Leo, as you can tell, is a serious guy and really works on this stuff. And so the
it's
next
so
time we
funny.
do this, I'm gonna have a couple of I'm gonna dig into some cults and I want to find out um, where they are, where they went, and what their lasting effects are. But maybe some of the lesser known ones, not the Jim Jones and the uh, yeah, which is amazing. And then my other question would be, how does this stuff go from you can take a book, was it 52 books in the Bible, I think, or 70, 52, um, and how does somebody take something that's that vast, pull out 2 or 3 sentences, and that becomes what they start a cult with. Um, and then how they constantly expand and there's constantly new revelation um, and how people get sucked in, right?
Yeah, no, those are great topics. I'd be happy to discuss.
Eh, yeah, and the other when and the the question the question that comes to me too is with like are some things mini cults? Is the Trump following almost cultish, or the Clinton following almost cultish? Um, there's some pretty interesting stuff. In any event, I'm going to say goodnight, guys. Thanks, Leo. Leo, if you could hang on for just 1 second while I end this.
Sure.
Um, good night, everybody. Hey, thanks for the chat, guys. You're great, and
Yeah, no
love
problem.
doing it. I'll see you on Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Okay. Good night.